Good morning, everybody. My name is Hossana, and I'm going to be speaking about enhanced interrogation techniques. The first thing I want to point out that it became illegal for torture in 1994. The way that the U.S. Constitution describes it as torture would be something that is cruel, unusual, or an unusual punishment. The way that the U.S. legal code defines it would be specific, intended to inflict severe physical pain, mental pain, or suffering. So that is the reason why now they call it enhanced interrogation techniques. My main claim is going to be that enhanced interrogation techniques are an ineffective way to gather information. I will be supporting this claim with two supporting claims. My first one is going to be while enhanced interrogation techniques, the subject will say anything to make the procedure stop. The second claim is going to be that these techniques literally won't allow you to give accurate answers because of the physical pain that you are enduring. I'm going to make my first claim by giving some examples. And I apologize because I can't pronounce his name very correctly. His name is Abdul Sabaldi, and he was one of the detainees that was captured after the September 11. They put him through an intense amount of interrogations, one including putting him in a box for 266 hours in a coffin-sized box, and an even smaller box for about 29 hours. He was slapped, he was not giving any food, he was forced to be nude, he was put in it's called the cold room, which was about 36 degrees, and occasionally they would just dump more cold water on him. There was one that surprised me the most, which is called waterboarding. This is when they grab the man, they tie him up, they hang him upside down. They either put a plastic bag over his head or they put just like a cloth. They pour water on his face to simulate that he's like drowning. They did this to him 80 times. After doing this, right now he's actually going to court, and his lawyer, Brent McCain, is saying that the Bush administration actually tortured the wrong guy. There still hasn't been any proof that he actually was linked to the September 11. He is linked to other groups, but he's still not completely convicted that he was linked to all of these. So they're still trying to fight that case right now. Another example that I'm going to be giving, and again I apologize because I can't pronounce their names correctly, it's Ivan Shakin Al-Labid, is another man that was put through all of these enhanced interrogation techniques. After being put through so many, he claimed that Iraq trained the Al-Qaeda members to use biochemical weapons. After further investigation, all of these information was false. There was another example that was done, another study that was done in the Phoenix program, where the CIA's program tortured assassination of Vietnam Cong's members during the Vietnam War. They found that they victimized 38 innocent people out of 1. The ratio was more out of 78 innocent people were tortured to compare to 1. So because they're constantly putting through this torture, they will just say anything and they'll just blur out things, so people will be damaged because there's people that will they'll capture these people and they're innocent, they have no idea yet, they're still being put through all of these enhanced interrogation techniques. I will be going on to my second claim, and that it will literally physically won't allow you to do so. One of the techniques that is used is sleep deprivation. If you do put somebody through sleep deprivation, and this is not just 48 hours, like most of these sleep deprivations are about 162 hours, then they have to stand still with their hands raised. And if they do not do any of that, again, they will be put in through a cold room or do anything else. But one of the men was put into one of these sleep deprivation for 168 hours in 2003. He started just hallucinating and again was giving false information because he had no conscience of what was really going on, what was reality. A neuroscientist in the Global Research website said that they have found that torture, physically and chemically interference with the prisoners will not be ability to be able to say the truth. And again, this is not just like somebody that like is just morally wrong. This is something that's neuroscientists have found that physically you will not be able to because your mental state will not be there. And then one other professor, he is a professor of political science and he's an expert of government torture, has said that Harvesting information torture is the clumsiest method available of organization. It's even clumsier in some cases than flipping a coin or randomly shooting into a crowd. And again, this is a professor that he has done extensive research on torture. And we're not allowed to say that it's torture, but these techniques are still going on right now. And yeah, so even though that these tortures, again, we're not saying that they're tortures because we're not cutting people's hands off, we're not setting them up in fire, but all of these ways are still being treated right now. And all of these techniques are no way of getting effective information. Last issue.
All right, you make a reference to the legality of torture. It sounds like there's some 1994 law that is being applied here. I don't know if it's an international treaty, if it's a U.S. law. I think if you're going to make a reference to something specific like a date like that, you need to give us some details so that we know why these techniques, for instance, are perceived as being exempt or outside of the definitions that are prohibited by the law. That I think would be relevant. Your main proposition is that it's not really very effective. And I think that's pretty straightforward and clearly cited, so you're doing a good job there. You do have a preview of the supporting points, but the phrasing on those supporting points is a little bit awkward, and they're not always declarative statements. And I think you want to be a little bit more certain in expressing how these things work. Let's face it, it's pretty simple. Your supporting points come down to people who are tortured will cooperate in order to reduce the torture, and that people who are tortured or enhanced interrogation can't give us an honest answer. And those are the points. They're declarative statements. They just need to be simplified a little bit. You kind of have this explanation on each one of them that goes along. Just make the argument first. The problem on the first point is that it's like all examples and descriptions of what they did, and there's a lot of vagueness about what's going on. The only reference in that first section that I got was that apparently part of what you said was the opinion of an attorney for one of these guys who has been through this process. I was listening, I was trying to hear, where did this evidence come from? You mentioned it, you've got a specific name, that's good, that's an example. So who says that this person got waterboarded 80 times? Who says that they were hung upside down in the way that you described? I know that you got this information from someplace. Why is it not in the speech? It needs to be there. I don't think you're making all that stuff up. But it's sort of like, the closest we get is a vague attorney making a reference to these sorts of things, and I'm going, well, if I was the attorney in a courtroom and I suddenly said all of this stuff, that's argumentative, where's the evidence on it? That's going to be the first question from the other side in this point. Where's the evidence that this is true? Otherwise, it's just hearsay that's going on there, and so you need to be able to cite that. And I know that there's a place that you can get that. It got a little bit confusing when you talked about the Phoenix program, because that's a different context, and there may be things about the Phoenix program that apply to your second argument, but you need to explain it a little bit more, because I don't think that it worked the way you are describing what's going on there. So that got a little confusing. You make this one reference that says, "Oh, they got the wrong guy," and I'm going, "Well, how do we know we got the wrong guy? Did they not get any information from them that was useful? Did the information they get from them, was it inaccurate or wrong?" We're back to the same situation here where we got a vague reference to those kinds of things. Person responding to this argument, if they are at all they need to do is look for some of the people who've made claims that says, we got useful data using enhanced interrogation that led us to Osama bin Laden. We got useful data that prevented attacks on the United States immediately after the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan. We got data that prevented X, Y, Z sort of thing. And suddenly I'm going, okay, well, here is somebody, let's say it's a person who's in a position of authority, the Justice Department or the CIA or somebody like that, versus your kind of vague information here, that they're going to be perceived as being more credible in that situation. So you need to really build your credibility there. I think you did a nice job speaking to the audience for the most part. You looked down occasionally, but you looked up, you knew what you were talking about, you were trying to relate to us. I appreciate that. The citation is, I think that's the biggest issue in the argument here. All right, thank you.